الحمد لله وكفى وسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى أما بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الذين جاهدوا فينا لنهدينهم سبلنا سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم. One of the key aspects of our batin, of our inner self that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us and that differentiates us from haywanat is the thinking faculty that Allah ta'ala has given us, this soch, this aql, the thought process that a person has. If you look at it, it is because of this that we are able to make judgments, we're able to make plans, we're able to make decisions in our lives. Now, like other faculties and that Allah Ta'ala has given us, if this faculty is also not kept into check, then it goes into corruption, like anything else, like our gaze, for example, like our tongue, like our ears. So similarly, if we do not keep our thinking in check, and there's a connection between the thought process and our emotions, our qalb as well as our desires, but keeping that aside, if we don't keep it in check, then it becomes so corrupted that eventually it just becomes out of control. And what then happens is that now all sorts of random, frivolous, vulgar thoughts, they just become that person. The person is so overwhelmed by these thoughts that even if they want it, they're unable to let go of them. They bother this person when they are praying in their salah, even when they are in the masjid. They can be in front of the Kaaba and still not being able to control this faculty. It really, starts to define them. And that's not a good state to be in, for sure, because it has a very big effect on what kind of people we become, because the sort of thoughts that we have will usually end up being the sort of actions that we take from our existence. Bad thoughts will lead to bad actions, good thoughts will lead to good actions. So one of the things within this Ramadan, and we are talking about our batini ahwal and kayfiyat, is to really make this effort to watch our thoughts. Make this effort to and be cognizant of the thought process that we have. What sort of thoughts are coming into my mind? Where are they coming from? Are they emerging within my own soul, within my own nafs, meaning? Are they coming from, Rahmani source? Are they coming from shaitan? What is the source of it? Right? And, usually people can tell, if it's very heavy on shahawat and desires, and usually it's coming from one's own stuff. If they are very shubhati sort of thing, they are usually coming from shaitan, and then so on and so forth. If you're sitting and all of a sudden you feel like I need to read Quran, obviously one can attribute to a Rahmani source. Right? So keeping a vigilant eye on it, rather than participating in it all the time, that okay, this thought is going to come now, I'm going to make this a food for thought. Keeping an eye on it, and if we find ourselves too indulgent in what the Sharia considers to be bad thought, pushing it aside, making your faculty busy in something else. Now, if those of you who are serious about their suluk and who are putting some effort in, that usually the initial asbaq the lessons that are carried out in Silsila Aliyah Naqshbandiya Mujaddidiyya, they kind of focus on this aspect of things, to really get rid of some of the spiritual, bad states that a person might have, diseases might have. So the thought process can eventually become cleaner. And this continues till, as we know, till at least the 10th sabak, and then with the blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, usually a sort of huduri qalbi, a presence is given to Allah, to a person, so much so that they're able to control their thoughts for a long period of time, usually a pair, two pair, we're talking 8 to 16 hours a day, easily. So, that kind of control, Allah Ta'ala blesses a person. And so the sort of struggle a person has with their, with the thoughts, usually it goes away. And this is why, as some of you might know, that usually we do dhikr in this suluk in the beginning, dhikr of Ismi Jalala, Allah, Allah, Allah. With the barakah of this, inshallah, hopefully we're pushing all the corruption and darkness away from our inner soul. And then we do the dhikr of La ilaha illallah, which has a burning effect. It really is a very warm and hot kind of dhikr. It has a burning effect that it kind of burns away like whatever is remaining inside in terms of ta'alluqat, and the ta'alluqat itself have thoughts in it. And then we go into this mode, what we call the tafakkurat, or the fikr, the muraqabas of fikr. And then pretty much all of it is fikr. And so fikr is really what I wanted to kind of talk about today, is that inshallah ta'ala we have to kind of put in the effort so we're able to gain some sort of huzuri qalbi, jamiyat in our thoughts, so we can eventually start to traverse what we call the muraqabat of fikr, because then you really focus on certain ayahs of the Quran, certain tajalliyat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, things like that. You start with ahadiyat, that Allah is unique, and all the kamalat and sifat belong to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and He's munazzah and pak from all sorts of naqa'is and uyub, and He is the musamma of Ismi Jalala Allah. And so just like kind of focusing on that, then various tajalliyat, whether they're af'aliyah, whether they're thabutiyah, whether they are shiyunat zatiyah, whether they're salbiyah, whether shani jami, things like that. A person is able to put in the tafakkur. Now they're using the mind for a positive thing. They're using the inner faculties in a positive way. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses this person with those tajalliyat, with these anwarat as well. And then moving on, it's like, what is the tafakkur on, huwa ma'akum aynama kuntum, that Allah ta'ala is with you wherever you are. That kind of ma'iyyat, so your mind is there, your heart is there. So all of these things start to kind of work together. What does it mean to have an aqrabiyyat with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Nahnu aqrabu ilayhi min hablil warid. Again, the mind is doing the tafakkur, and the soul, or your, the rest of the faculties are really like benefiting from that. And yuhibbuhum wa yuhibbunahu, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves them and they love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What does that ahabiyyat look like? So on and so forth, right? So after that, everything is fikr. But the point is, if you're unable to control your fikr from the get-go, what do we expect is going to happen later on? Right? Meaning, if the corruption is still there, if the filth is still there, if the darkness is still there, and we have not put in the effort to get rid of it, what the jaliyat are we talking about, right? So it becomes muddied. Just like the rain comes in a pure form, but if there's mud there, when it passes through the mud, it becomes muddied as well. So we have to kind of think about that a little bit in this Ramadan, and we have to make sure that we are putting in some effort, inshallah ta'ala, to and it's difficult to, some mashayikh will write, to be khaliyu zihin, and it's next to impossible in this information heavy age to be like that, but at least have some jami'at as well, so that you're able to kind of push away the distraction somewhat. You're able to focus somewhat, because it will help you in your salah, it will help you in your ilm, in your quest for ilm, it will help you in other amal that you're doing, it will help you in life in general if you're able to do that. And if you're not, then this will wander, and it will be, it'll just be like the top. Pirki jisko kehte hain na, top hi hota hai na. It just goes round, and you just, it's this thing, and then this thing, and then this thing, and then this thing, and then this thing, and you're just, it will drive you crazy. It's ajib, because you just can't help it. And how does such a person expect that this is how I am in daily life, and then I'm going to say Allahu Akbar, and all of a sudden it's going to be a miraj for me? It can't happen. It's just impossible. Right? So, you have to put in the effort outside, so you're able to kind of gain and have that kind of, huduriyat qalbi within the heart. Just as a side note, and I think I mentioned in one of the other kind of lectures as well, that one of the things that people do kind of ask about is like, how do I make my salah better, and how can I have focus in salah? So if a person, let's say, is not spending a lot of time in their dhikr and their ma'mulat, one thing that we should really try this Ramadan is that we should add waqf or little stops in our salah. So try to read it so it becomes like a whisper, so you can hear yourself, a little bit, right? Rather than just, sometimes people will just, stand like that and their lips are closed and they're just reading the salah in their mind. But if the mind is dirty to say, or if the mind is full of thoughts, what do you think? And again, it's not, Sharon, it's not right that you're doing that. And so, just kind of verbalize it. Second is, in between different aspects of it, just put like a half a second of stop. So for example, when you say Subhana Rabbiyal A'la, you don't necessarily have to jump and just say like 10 times, like real quickly, right? Subhana Rabbiyal A'la, Subhana Rabbiyal A'la. No, just put in, so that sense of presence is there. When you say Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika wa tabarak ismuka wa ta'ala jadduka wa la ilaha ghayruka. Give it a second. And then, Surah Fatiha, give it a second. Because, the hadith tell us that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala responds when you are, reciting this. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. So, if Allah ta'ala is responding, why aren't we listening? Right? Same thing when we go into ruku, when we stand up. A couple of seconds of just adding that pause and recollecting our sense of presence in our salah. Inshallah, this will really help. Going into the sajda and then, understanding and feeling that I am closest to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when I am in the state of sajda. So feeling that, and then, saying Subhana Rabbiyal A'la a second, Subhana Rabbiyal A'la, Subhana Rabbiyal A'la, and then getting it. It might increase your salah maybe by a minute or two, but it is definitely worth it. And so people who complain, I cannot focus in salah, salah is, it's just like a mechanical, robotical kind of experience for me. This certainly helps. Okay, so try to add that, inshallah. And of course, people who have any zawq shock of Arabic, inshallah, focusing a little bit on the meanings of it as well. That also helps. And in general, just putting some practice outside of salah to be able to focus on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, getting some sense of ihsan in our life, inshallah ta'ala, that helps as well. Okay? So Mashaykh write, what this tafakkur or this fikr means. It means obviously different things to different people. One could say that one is doing tafakkur in the tawheed of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Obviously, we have been told not to do tafakkur in the zat of Allah, because nobody can, it's even sifat, the mind cannot encompass it, but truly appreciating it. For example, Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim, Allah, you're so ghafoor and so kareem. Obviously, we cannot do ahata of it, but we can feel that karam, we can feel that rahmah, we can feel all of those things, right? And so just kind of doing tafakkur on that. Ya Allah, look at this, you have given me so much, right? So doing that a little bit, it will increase in your own gratitude. It will increase in your hayba, in the awe of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala kareem. Like when I do tafakkur in everything around me, like, the halqa samawat and everything, that's just, it's ajib, it's so humongous, it's huge, it's so intricate. The details, and, that increases your own ma'arifah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as well. So that's one thing we can certainly do. Mashaykh gave up, it was sort of like that, oh Allah, I have understood that, not being able to get your ma'arifah is your ma'arifah. Right? That, you're huwa subhanahu wa ta'ala wara'ul wara summa wara'ul wara, that you're beyond imagination, that you're beyond all of our, striving, and there's a ma'arifah in that as well. So that's also tafakkur. And, another aspect of things is, our own states that we can do tafakkur in, So rather than every good thing that we do, and all of a sudden that's your nafs talking. When you're like, oh, mashallah, look at me. Look at what an amazing person I am. I've been able to do this and I've been able to do that. That's your nafs talking. Right? But really looking and maybe focusing on, I really should have been like this. Like this is what my mashayikh were like, and all these great ulama and mashayikh. Even just if you take the ulama Deoband and the awliya Deoband, I mean, it's just amazing people. And so just kind of looking at that and assessing our own kind of shortcomings, like look at what they did and look at what I am. And so keeping an eye and fikr on one's own state of being as well, that helps too. Just keeping yourself in check. What they say in Urdu, ki apni awqat mein rehna, right? It helps you stay within your awqat. This is who I am. So, you don't become a king in your own eyes. Right? So that's also part of fikr. But it should become part and parcel of who we are. And so in this Ramadan, inshallah ta'ala, striving a little bit to pushing aside the bad thoughts, evil thoughts, thoughts of shar, thoughts of despair, hopelessness, things like that, and inshallah ta'ala focusing on the azmat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, rahmat, His sifat, His attributes, His beauty, and that He's with us, things like that. Inshallah ta'ala, it will do wonders, because this is a time of wonder. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for all of us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us amongst those who are people of positive fikr, inshallah ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept us all. Ameen ya Rabbul Alameen. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Alhamdulillahi